when you're trying to do grassroots mobilization is always time, money, things of that nature. I know for a fact that many of my community members will donate money, but they won't go and vote. I think that you're cheating. I'd rather you vote and maybe give money, okay? I know this because I have a large donor list, alhamdulillah, because of all of you. And sometimes I just occasionally look up people from my donor list to see if they're actively voting. And so I don't know who you're voting for, but it tells you whether or not you vote. I also know for a fact that many of my colleagues, there's one in particular that's a state representative, that if he gets an email or concern via phone, he will take the person's address. The staff is all asked to first go look up on the voter file to make sure that they actually vote, even if they're registered to vote. So many people are registered to vote, right? But many people are not actually exercising the right to vote. And so if they don't vote, maybe in the last 2 elections, he will not respond to their emails, he will not respond to their calls, he will not respond to them at all. It's very disappointing when I hear this, but it's the truth, and that's just a reality of the political system here. Of course, we expect more from our leaders, and we expect more from the people that we get are elected, because in many ways we all are being represented by these people if we vote for them or not. The interesting data from the presidential campaign is really interesting. 68% of the folks that came out and voted among the Muslim community were female. Even though there's a larger group here of males, the females are voting more in 2008 than the males, Muslims. And this was from a online survey, and it was done, but it's very, very reflective. People actually say that it sounds particularly right from just looking at our community. When you are trying to create like a voting block, I, as an organizer at Access, and before that was, I think it was Wendell Anthony that said it, and it clicked in my head, of the NAACP Detroit chapter. He said, you got to work your block. And I'm thinking he's literally talking about my street. And he isn't. He's talking about your family, your friends, your block. And I'm the eldest of 14, and so I have a voting block on my own, right? So what I do is ensure that all of them, I will literally put them in the car, I'll call them the night before, I don't care if they're in their pajamas or whatever, and I will literally put them in the car and take them out to go vote. It is extremely important because me calling your family member, say on a phone banking, is not as impactful as you calling and saying mom or dad or cousin or uncle. It's so important that we come out and vote. Please, do you need a ride? I'll come and help you. Because you are all my choir. You're probably all voters, all of you. But many people around you, the people that are probably going to be the easiest to convince, your voting block is so influential and influenced by you. So it's so important that you work your family in your community. Because I hear so many of my Muslim fathers tell me, oh, we got to get our young people. I said, well, is all your kids registered? Are all of them voting? Work on that, because that ultimately, work your home first before we start trying to get, the rest of the young people in our community out to vote. It is true, about 22 to 25% of folks that voted in 08 in the presidential election were like 30 to 39-year-olds. And then it goes down from there. I mean, it was only like about maybe 18%, 25 to 29-year-olds. But that is a huge chunk. That's close to 50% of the folks coming out to vote among our American Muslim community. But one of the things that you can do is I've taken 3 or 4 of my brothers, and we've walked into a campaign office cold turkey. And you can do that. It's very simple. You just decide, if it's Saturday morning, you know where the headquarters is, and you just go in there and say, hi, we're the Elabeth family, or we're the Tariq family, and we want to know more about the candidate, or we've convinced, Jocelyn Benson is the right Secretary of State, and we want to come and help her. How can we help? Sometimes we're always waiting, though, to be asked, right? Sometimes you don't need to wait to be asked. You can just pick up the phone. And I can't tell you, anybody that called my office during the campaign and said, I want to volunteer, I said, do you need to be picked up right now? Because you can come right now. And we sometimes would actually go pick up, many of them are seniors and so forth. Some people even get call lists. We would mail them a call list, and we would actually have them call from their home. So there's a number of ways that you can be engaged. And trust me, you get on a list, a permanent list after that, and you get called almost every campaign season, not just for money as a donor, but also to participate in phone banking and door-to-door activity. But it's so important for you as a community to really work your own block first, and then try to work among the community as a whole. I know it might seem like it's a little bit harder. It actually isn't, honestly. It really is very, very simple. It's not intimidating at all. Sometimes we would have volunteers literally come in, might not want to do phone calls, but we'll have them put stamps on envelopes or cards. Being engaged in that way, and as a Muslim, being engaged in a campaign activity like that is so extraordinary, because you do represent our community in a very positive way, as if we care and we're engaged. I was also asked to talk about engaging both the GOP as well as the Democratic Party. Of course, I'm a Democrat, right? But I think no matter what your preference, and I think the last two presidential elections, we were primarily voting Democratic, but we are on the local level a little bit more split, which is okay. I think a lot of our community members are fiscally conservative, and then maybe on social issues it's different, or whatever the concerns are. The important thing is, if you're Republican or Democrat, having you be engaged in either or party is extremely important. I don't care. In this election, for instance, I find that some people, are really, really split and confused about the governor's race. I tell them what I've done is I've focused maybe on other races in the meantime until I figure out where I'm at. Where some people feel very handicapped all of a sudden. Well, I don't know which one I like. I was like, well, what about the state representative race? You know what I mean? What about the Secretary of State race? Focus on those other races. I think Diane Slavens has a very contested race. She's a friend of the community. Republican and Democrats both support her. And that's a race that people can jump on. I think don't freeze up if you can't decide who you want to vote for on the top of the ticket. I have seen people skip the top of the ticket and go on to the rest of them. And the rest of them actually probably impact your lives much, much more directly than even the governor's race. Not saying that it's not important, I'm just saying don't let that be a challenge for you guys, because we only have 25 days left for you to be engaged and for you to be active, not on phone banking, but door-to-door or any activity at all. Be engaged, even going in and saying, let me grab some lawn signs, do you have a sample ballot, do you have any other information, and making sure you give that information and all that material to your voting block, your family, your friends, your cousins, all those folks that you're going to create. So one of the steps that you can do is you, yourself, contact 5 people, your family, your friends, start with them. That's your 5 voting block. You may ask them to contact 2 other, 3 other people. Then you create even 10, 15, 20 other people. And then you create this 20 to 30 voting block right there of you supporting one candidate or the other. It could be based on an issue or whatever your preference is. I won in a very predominantly non-Muslim community. It wasn't even Arab. People think I represent Dearborn still. I actually represent Southwest Detroit, which is 45% Latino, and then 35% African American, and then only 2% Arab American, and the rest white. And the only way I did it was directly engaging the voters directly, and that's the only way that Diane Slavens or Jocelyn Benson or many of the folks that we might want to really, really strongly support is going to be able to win too. I don't care what anybody says. When people said, oh, we picked up 11 seats in the state house, Democrats did. We did. We picked up 11 seats. We're 67. It's wonderful because we can hardly fit in the caucus room in the back of the House floor. And we're all stuffed there, and we're sitting there, and we're all looking at each other. And people say, well, it's probably, they won because President Obama was on top of the ticket. Not true. Many of them who represent very, segregated, very conservative communities, they got more votes